Hello everyone, I'm Cameron Emmanuel Burns reporting for FinTech Futures here at Sibos in Frankfurt, and today I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Sergey Nazarov, the co-founder of Chainlink. How are you and how are you enjoying Sibos this year?
Doing well. Conference is going very well. Lots of digital asset adoption across basically all parts of the industry. So I would say this is the most exciting Sibos so far.
Awesome. So first off, how has Chainlink's work with Swift evolved over the years?
I think we've now entered a kind of next stage of pre-production, live trials, production stage where now there's enough demand from the Swift membership. There's newfound and larger interest inside of Swift, both to have a chain which Chainlink will power with various oracles, bridging oracles, identity oracles, data oracles, and there's also the continued need for interoperability. So interoperability is a very big topic in the digital asset community and here at Sibos this year. And Swift is very interested in how interoperability is going to work within the current Swift system, the current Swift standards for the current Swift members. And now I think we're at a stage where, like I said, there's enough demand to justify going to the next stage, which is where we are rapidly going now.
So how is Swift working with Chainlink on enabling interoperability across blockchains and traditional systems?
Swift is a standard for traditional systems to define transactions and then to route those transactions through the Swift network. Chainlink is a standard for how blockchain transactions work across chains in relation to data sources, in relation to identity. These two standards are actually very compatible with each other. So taking the Swift standard and allowing Swift messages to be converted into blockchain events and blockchain messages through Chainlink is really the foundational idea. So you can continue to use your Swift private key, you can continue to use Swift messages, the ISO 20022 standard, and those messages in that standard can now define blockchain transactions. So they can say things like transfer a stablecoin from blockchain A to blockchain B and return the final receipt of the stablecoin being received. And then something has to execute that on those chains, and something has to return the proofs. That's what Chainlink does. So Chainlink actually executes the instructions on those chains. And then the blockchain transactions are really going to get more and more complex because they're going to require compliance with accounting requirements, regulatory requirements, identity requirements, and the use of various data. And all of that Chainlink provides on a single platform. So I think Chainlink will allow the current Swift systems and infrastructure to properly connect with chains and use those chains and allow the Swift membership to use those chains. And Chainlink will also enrich those transactions with identity, data, compliance, and various other key aspects that the Swift membership, the Swift member banks really need. That's, I think, a lot of the value we provide.
Super. And so how is Chainlink's recent work with Swift and UBS advancing tokenized fund management?
So tokenized funds require a lot of pieces beyond the tokenized fund itself. They require digital transfer agency, which is the system that actually controls the ownership of the tokenized fund. They require connection to data for the NAV, the net asset valuation of the fund. They require connection back to bank systems. In many cases, they require compliance information, and they require the ability to settle transactions against a form of payment for subscribing into or redeeming out of the tokenized fund. All of these capabilities are provided by Chainlink around the tokenized fund. And UBS, I think, finds that useful because it means they have a tokenized fund that works well and is connected to various forms of payment, including Swift payments. So one of the more exciting things that we were able to put together with Swift and UBS is the ability for the UBS tokenized fund to be paid for or paid out of using Swift. So if you want to pay into a tokenized financial product, you can pay into it through Swift payments. If you want to get paid out from it, you can get paid out through Swift payments. That just shows the compatibility of the digital asset tokenized world with the TradFi Swift world.
Perfect. And so what does the second phase of Chainlink's industry initiative standardize and streamline corporate actions processing?
So corporate actions have been a long-standing problem in the capital markets. That long-standing problem is basically a data quality problem. That's the first problem Chainlink solved, is the Chainlink Oracle networks are able to verify corporate actions much more accurately than existing systems with the help of AI and consensus, basically running a special system within Chainlink Oracle networks. That highly verified, highly reliable corporate actions data is then placed on chain. to make it accessible to all the market participants in TradFi, all the market participants also in the digital asset world. And then finally, we were able to synchronize the on-chain record back into traditional systems through Swift messages and Swift infrastructure, and allowing people to access it through a Swift adapter. So what you're really getting here is an accurate corporate actions system. You're getting something that shares that corporate actions data with the TradFi and the digital asset community really efficiently. And then you have systems to integrate that data into the TradFi and digital asset systems very well. So it's really kind of, I would say, the next generation corporate action solution out there. And also it's something that digital assets need in order to go on chain. For example, tokenized public equity will require a lot of corporate actions events, votes, dividends, all kinds of different events. And so these different events need to be on chain for the public equity that gets tokenized to work completely on chain properly. So it's really solving a number of issues. It's both making corporate actions work well, and it's making tokenization of various digital assets possible.
Super. So how does Chainlink's automated compliance engine enable financial institutions to securely adopt tokenized assets at scale?
Compliance is a very large requirement that all institutions have. Blockchains don't inherently create any kind of compliance, so there needs to be a system that does create that compliance. Compliance often starts from identity and the ability to comply with AML KYC requirements and prove things about the entities that are doing the transaction. So one of the first things the automated compliance engine does is it integrates with various identity standards and leading systems like the LEI, the legal entity identifier, and it puts that information on chain. Allowing you to prove who you are to others on the chain basically allows you to do institutional transactions. But then you have to make various conditional statements work against that identity. Is this identity in the right country? Does this identity meet certain conditions of having enough assets, of not being on an OFAC list, of not being on this system or on that list? And so now you have the question of automating compliance, right? So you've put certain key information on chain. You can use that information to then automate the decision making of, am I allowed to do transactions with you? And are you allowed to do transactions with me? Which is basically what compliance is. So the first thing is getting a basic layer of compliance and identity so that institutions can transact on chain and with decentralized finance in very basic ways. And then the more advanced version of this is that if we can make proving things about you very reliable, then we can reuse those proofs for many different institutions. And then what that can do is it can lower the burden and lower the cost of compliance down to near zero, because you can reuse complying once with many different institutions.
What are you seeing as the major themes emerging from this year's Sibos?
Stablecoins are definitely a very large theme. That has captured everyone's attention, and it's great for the digital asset industry, for our industry, because you have more purchasing power going on chain. You have more purchasers, and you have more cash that can be used to buy digital assets on chain. I'm seeing tokenized funds. We released a lot of great things about the tokenization of funds, transfer agency, and other key processes. That was a very big theme and is a very big theme. The stablecoin payments, on-chain cash side, and the digital asset fund tokenization side actually work together. And I think they're going to now form more and more of a market where you're going to see the emergence of the benefits of blockchain technology being very clear, including collateral management. So the ability to post a tokenized fund as collateral when you can't post a similar fund in the TradFi world is going to be, a big advantage that I think we're going to see. Other than that, interoperability is a very big topic. Interoperability is seen as a requirement for liquidity to move between chains. I think everyone realizes that without interoperability, all these different chains by all these different institutions aren't going to do much. And so we're seeing a huge influx of demand for CCIP, the cross-chain interoperability protocol, as well as all the systems around CCIP, which allow a CCIP transaction to happen because they can provide the data, the identity, and the various other conditional checks and requirements for the transaction. So I would say that interoperability has entered kind of a new stage of adoption, and I think people do understand that just the ability to connect two chains isn't enough. You actually need to fulfill all the conditions of the transaction, such as data, identity, and other things, which at this point, Chainlink is the only system that does that. So we're seeing a huge amount of demand for CCIP.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been so interesting speaking to you today, finding a bit more about Chainlink, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of Sibos.
Thank you. My pleasure.